Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Hello, Melbourne. I used to live here for a little while. So thank you very much for having me back. I had a great time here. I used to live on Ackland Street. No, Fitzroy Street.
Is there something we need to know about Fitzroy Street?
Well, my mum came to visit. I'd moved out of home, and they said, "Do you want us to help you move into your place in Melbourne?" I said, "No, thanks, I'll be right." And I found this apartment that there was one other guy who was looking at it who was a circus performer, and we both got there at the same time and inspected it and both rushed back to the real estate agency at the end of the street to put in our bid for it. And I think I was really more enthusiastic about it than he was, but because I really loved it, he kind of loved it too. And they offered it to him first because he was a bloke and they thought it would be safer for him to be there than a girl on her own. And he actually called me, and he said, because we became mates, and he said, "Do you want it?" Because I actually don't think I want it. I think I just got excited because you did. And I said, I would really like to live there. It just sort of, and it was the weirdest apartment. And when my mum came to visit, she stepped out onto the gutter and stepped on a needle, a hypodermic needle. So that's an indication of the neighbourhood I was living in. But I just loved being near St Kilda, and it was a weird flat. Apparently a transvestite and a witch lived there before me. And there was apparently a ghost, which I didn't see, but my friend woke up one day when she was staying over and she went, "There's a little girl sitting on the end of the bed." And there was some weird Hessian sack on the shelf in the storeroom, and when the guys were moving in my stuff, I said, "Oh, I can't reach it. Would you mind getting that stuff off the top shelf for me and just chucking it out?" And they went in, they came out, they looked weird, they left, and they didn't have anything in their hands, and I don't know what was in those bags, but they refused to take it out. And that was Melbourne for me. There was a little... Also someone came home, a friend of mine was working on a film here, and he came over one night and he said, "Excuse me one second," and he shifted my TV over, and he started pulling out floorboards. And he looked round at me for my reaction. I was just sort of sitting there going, "Look, honey, the things I've seen in this apartment by now, this is really not that much of a surprise." He said, "Don't you want to know how I know that this is here?" And I said, "Well, what is it, first of all?" He said, "There's a little sort of hidey hole in the floor." I was like, "Oh God, I can't look what's in there." And he said, "Look, it's empty now, but I was just working on set with an actor who used to live in this apartment. And they used to stash stuff in the floor. God knows what, I don't want to know. But I had a really adventurous time here, and I've just had such funny sort of, it's just been nice being back here remembering all of that, as weird as that may sound. Anyway, have to say, of all the conventions I've been to, the Melbourne audience is, unsurprisingly, the most fashion-forward. You're all very glamorous and very gorgeous and very stylish, so well done. What?
I got nothing.
And they wonder where Vala came from.
Do we have any questions? Do we have someone in charge of questions? Are we doing it this... Bad question. Are we doing the same thing we did in Sydney?
Yes. Is there a microphone being handed around?
I got
All right, sweet.
Okay. Yeah, good.
I just wanted to know the chemistry you two had in Farscape to the chemistry in Stargate. Was it similar, or was there a different context as to your characters in both shows?
Yeah, well, I think they had to keep us apart so we wouldn't have the same chemistry on Stargate.
Yeah, we have had that question. Actually, had it yesterday. Sorry, but they did. I think there was an active notion of keeping us separate. We literally went through till this season 10 halfway through season 10 before we really had a scene, which was a scene together. But you know, they had tagged Vala for Daniel, and as I said, don't want to bore anybody who happened to come twice, but as I said in Sydney, that the first time I saw Daniel reject Bala, I went up to the writer's room and said, Mitchell will take her. They didn't let him.
It's talking to people who are out there. It's pilot season in the States at the moment, and that means that all the pilots that the networks are going to want to make to test if they're worth turning into a series or not are being cast right now, or mostly on offer to big names, and they're not really, from what I hear, concerned about chemistry between the lead players, and that's it's sad to me, and I don't think we'll be surprised by the results when they come out and don't end up becoming shows. But it's you can't buy it, you can't fake it, and I'm just shocked now talking to people. We were saying this yesterday, that the amount of people who have to sign off on you as an actor for you to get the job, it's a miracle, I think, that I ever have worked, because I mean it. I mean, there's just, and we're so young. I mean, when I was first cast, I just didn't realize how hard it was to get a job and how lucky I was. And when I met Ben, I mean, it was just insane how easily we fell into this rhythm together. It was just, we went to run lines while we were waiting for them to set up in the room, and Ben started walking down the hallway, and he just threw out the first line of the scene, and it just casually, I thought we were going to start once we were outside. And it took me a second to realize what he was doing, and we just started running them. And that, it's, the ease, with which we work together has always been the same as that day. So, I'm really glad that they prioritize that they listened to you, because I know you had a big say in who they cast.
What she's talking about is when they were auditioning for Farscape, I had been cast out of LA after they'd seen every guy in LA, and I was the only one who wanted to go to Australia. What a bunch of idiots, huh? So I had the job, and they were looking for errands, and I went down to read with the short list of prospective errands. And I kind of walked through the room, I'm standing there, and I'm saying hi and hi and hi, and then I asked Claudia if she wanted to run lines, and before we actually went in and did the audition. And it was so easy. I mean, it's ridiculous that you have to go halfway around the globe to find something that is just, that right. But it was so easy that, and then we did the scene, and I do, that's it, that's the one. And I went back, and the producers were like, we kind of like the girl in the cat suit, She's an attractive girl, very nice girl, but I said, no, there's one. Claudia Black. And in the end, I think, there was really no question after they'd seen all of the footage that she was the one. The one.
Everyone, all recording devices away, please. Put them all away.
Does that include cameras?
Cameras?
That's a recording device.
It is. Cameras, video cameras, doesn't matter.
Cell phones?
Cell phones, all go away. If I see a screen, I'm going to snap my fingers at you.
Next question.
I have a question for Claudia.
Where are you?
Up the back.
Up. Oh,
Hi.
wow.
On Stargate, did you have a favorite outfit?
On Stargate?
Yes.
It's so funny, because I think, after all the years on Farscape, I think I had more outfits to choose from on Farscape than Vala did, but, I just decided that since she wasn't from the military, but I think she was really desperately looking for a home and somewhere to belong, so she was happy to wear a version of the uniform. I was amazed by how diligent different departments are. So the costume department, tailor-made, sorry, I'm making bad noise into the mic. They tailor-made, customized the military outfit for me. I'm so naive. I sort of see these war movies and there's this whole department and they're up for an Academy Award for Best Costume in the War Film. And I'm like, they're wearing uniforms. What's the big deal? But there's an incredible amount of detail that can go into that sort of work. And it really customized this, you know, Vala's outfit for me. And that inspired me to go the extra mile with Vala. And, you know, first I entered the scene in that leather outfit because the beautiful Christine Mooney had seen my stuff on Farscape, and she was inspired to do this crazy bondage-looking outfit. And you know, people will go to offer me a role, and they say, yeah, we sort of see her in leather and latex, and I'm like, wow, I've never done that before. But they like it, and they think, well, it works, so let's keep going with it. And I said to her, look, you've gone to so much work with this outfit, and I really don't want to rock the boat, but I don't see Vala as this. I don't see her as wearing this sort of leather all the time, not just because I've done it before, but just I think there's a different side to her. And I did want to distinguish Erin from Vala, admittedly. But it was the little details. So it was the fact that they made the little baby patches for Vala, which I have kept. And then I just decided, you know, Vala's about bling. She's this woman who never really, you know, she was in denial about becoming a woman. And it was so funny because Ben said to me, Mitchell, that would drive Mitchell crazy. You're going to attract attention from enemies if they can see the bling. They'll see the bling when we're hiding and they'll find us because of Vala. I'm like,
We're
well,
out
that's
in
brilliant.
Black Ops. And Black Ops are trying not to draw attention. And what's with the diamonds in the hair? Hold on, shine a light. Bling.
And had it been Farscape, we would have had an opportunity probably to create a whole scene around that. But
Whole episode around that.
right, exactly. But it, you know, it wasn't our show. So I did what I could with Vala. It was the little details that I brought in, and we did have a fun episode where, you know, they wanted to get Vala out shopping with Amanda Tapping's character, and we had that one scene coming down the hallway in civilian clothing. I quite like that outfit, but for me, for Vala, it was really about the little things, the barrettes and then the hair and makeup department got really excited about it too, and they started to be able to do things that they couldn't do with any of the other characters. So.
I think the little red jammies were good.
Oh, the pink ones?
Little pink jammies, those were nice. And your courtroom outfit was excellent.
The what?
The courtroom outfit. With
Oh, yeah. and they'd say, right, we're going to have to, if you're going to do that, we want you to do a move around the courtroom, so we're going to have to put a little body mic on you. And I'm like, well, if you can find a place to fit that thing, then I suppose. But it was just nice to see what Vala as a thing did for everybody, because she was sort of reinvigorating and she brought colour and bling. Who's got the mic?
right in the back.
Over here.
Hello.
Claudia, when you started out, you were all kick-ass in that first one where you're stealing the spaceship and that. What happened? It just sort of petered off, sort of thing. Did you wish that you could have gone through a little bit more kick-ass?
Oh
through
no,
it?
absolutely not. I had 4.5 years of being kick-ass with this one. I just thought there was...
Yeah, kicked my ass.
Yeah, Ben was very brave. He reminded me yesterday that I broke one of his fingers.
I'd already hit her.
What?
Just payback.
No, I jumped up on him and it was the way you caught me. It wasn't that
It was my fault.
Right.
It was my fault. You jumped on me and I broke my own finger.
See, when you say it like that, it sounds dumb, but it's true.
Yes, ma'am.
How was my bum supposed to know that when it landed on your finger that it was supposed to land a different way? That sounded really bad. It's at this point that someone has to call. That's what she said. Oh, dear.
How was my finger supposed to know when your bum landed?
Let's not repeat that. We're moving on to answer this poor lady's question. I personally wanted, it was a repeat for me, quite honestly. I mean, you've called something that really should be acknowledged. I don't know if it ever has been, that that Aaron's opening scene with Crichton in the cell was pretty much for me replicated in Vala's opening scene with Daniel on the ship, on Prometheus. Even down to the reveal. It looks like a man, it is a man, it was a stunt man. And then when I take off the mask, wow, what a shock, it's a lady. Or a woman at least, I'm no lady. And I really wanted to depart from that. It's just creative death to repeat what you've done before. It insults the audience. It's not good for anyone. And when they talked to me about coming back, it was about coming back with Michael on maybe a spin-off show. They didn't know if SG-1 was going to continue. They were waiting to hear from the network. We definitely expressed interest. And they said to us, look, you guys improvised, you came up with some really cool stuff, and we want your opinion. And my opinion was, where's the value, where's the entertainment, and what do they want out of Vala? If she's there to be entertaining and fun and light, then let's find ways to encourage that. And to me, it just didn't seem to fit that, sure, she can hold her own, but it's just more funny to me that she just scrapes by all the time, by her wiles and also by her cheek. I mean, she's such a cheeky little thing. Her mouth was more of a weapon with words and the stuff, she just taught people to death. That to me was more valuable and more entertaining, and it seemed more real because Michael Shanks had changed the fight scene too. It was supposed to be a very kind of actiony, butch fight scene, and Michael was the one, to his credit, who said, oh, it's so much funnier if she does this to me. I don't want to get a good hit on her back. She should be tougher than me, but I want to be really kind of, he sort of made himself daggy. You guys understand what that word means? So it was a combination of factors, but really we moved towards what we thought would be more fun to continue long term, and I had no interest in sort of repeating something that I'd quite obviously done before. Thanks for your patience on that one. We had fingers in bums and all sorts of things, didn't we? Who's got the mic?
Up here at the top.
Hello.
Hi, my name's Renee.
Hello.
This question's for Claudia. Sorry, Ben, you get to hang out.
I'm very happy.
Have you ever done the voiceover for a video game called Uncharted 2?
Yes.
Yeah, my partner has that game and he plays it a lot.
I am sorry about that.
Oh no, it's good.
Is he in love with Zoe the same way my son is in love with Zoe?
Don't know.
Chloe.
Did you enjoy doing it?
I got a message from his son while I was doing it saying, hey, how you doing? Can I have the beta codes for the game that you're making?
Well,
I said, yeah, I'll just have to check with your dad if it's okay, because age appropriateness and all. Sorry, mate, I'll have to check with your dad. Yeah.
Did you enjoy doing it?
It was an absolute ball. The company Naughty Dog, who made it for Sony Entertainment, were incredible, and they reminded me of people like Ben who prioritize story, and there are a lot of actors that come and go who just care about themselves, and Ben's a storyteller first and foremost, and we would get down in the trenches on set every day, and we'd be trying to work out how to, we would never give up on a scene, ever. Everything needed to work, and we needed to make the writing, find a way to make the writer's stuff work. They'd write something, it might have not been painted the way they'd written it. We were just always trying to make sure that everything worked and was paid off and set up well, and Ben always had elegant solutions, and the guys at Naughty Dog were the same, and Amy Hennig, who wrote it, she's a woman who's not a teenager, let's say, in a video game world where most of the people in her company, if not all the rest, are men. And she wrote the characters so beautifully, and they prioritized chemistry. Another rare occasion where that was done, and so we actually did it as motion capture, this game. So we wore the funny suits with the balls on them, and we were captured by several hundred cameras in the studio, but they also videoed us on digital cameras to get references for our facial expressions, and then manually, hand animated our faces afterwards. But they kept the original dialogue this time, because they'd done a game, the first Uncharted. And they wanted to keep as much original dialogue as possible because they realized, even in the gaming world, that you're going to get much more interesting performances if you can capture it live when the chemistry is actually occurring between characters and between actors. So that was a similar experience, and they cast for chemistry because we shot that over a year. So it was very important to them that everyone got on, and we're all family now. Is that a phone call? Give us a phone. I want to talk to them. If they ring again, don't encourage people to ring, but I do want to talk to them if they call you. So yeah, to answer your question, it was a great time, and it was specifically, I think, because of that, because it was the same set of circumstances. So there is a secret to this, and that's it. You know, if people get along, you're going to get, I think, a really great result.
Thank you. I
Thank
can go
you.
home and tell my other half that I was right.
Hi, it's a question for both of you.
Nice try.
It's
I'm
my
all right.
hometown.
I can listen to her talk all day long. No, seriously. Go ahead. God,
Anyway, the dynamic between working on Farscape in Australia with the cast and crew and the dynamic in working with SG1 in America or Canada.
Canadians will kill you for that.
What's the difference in work ethics and stuff like that, and which one do you prefer?
Ben.
Well, as long as no one knows outside of this room, it's much better working in Australia.
Sitting so far away from me.
I know, what's that about? Look, first off, they're two completely different shows, but Farscape was the first big budget television show that was shot in Australia. And even then, it wasn't on the scale with shows shot in America, Los Angeles, or Canada. You look at Farscape and you think, wow, that is an expensive show, and it is, but it's a third to a quarter the price of Star Trek. It's far less than half the price of Stargate, and it's because Australian crews and cast are used to working guerrilla style, making do. The writers would write these massive things, and you would look at it and go, how are we going to do this? There's no way this can be done, and done on schedule, and done on budget. And the Australian crew go, yeah, no worries, Mike. Yeah, right. But every time they would find a way to make it work, and they put their entire soul and energy and heart into it. And truthfully, if you know about Farscape, you're an aberration. Even as an Australian, it is a show made in Australia by Australians. There were 3 Americans on the ground and maybe 2 or 3 English for the run of the show. The other 1,000 people were all Australians, writers, actors, crew, cast, all of it, post-production. It was music. It's an Australian show. And Australian audiences were never properly exposed to it. And it's to my mind, and it bothered me at the time, and I complained vociferously with Channel 9 about it, because to me this was a look into what is possible, what is capable. No one else in the world is doing this. This should be going on all the time in Australia. And because 9 is sports and news, and as I was told at the premiere of the 9's new season, that, oh mate, sci-fi doesn't work in Australia. Well, when you put it on after the cricket, and when does the cricket end?
Or
Depends on the weather, the light, the
when
rain.
you put it up against the Sydney 2000 Olympics.
Yeah, because at the opening ceremonies of the 2000 Olympics, we're going to be watching Farscape. No, you're not. And so, then it got shuffled over to kids television, which is not really a kids show, even though I do recommend it for certain children in the audience. So it never got a proper footing here, a proper showing, and for all the cast and crew that did such a remarkable job, the directors, everyone, they went to work, and their friends and family would say, "So what are you working on?" And I'm working on Farscape.
Fire escape.
Fire escape? You know? And their friends never saw what it was they were doing, and it was a huge tragedy. Now, the real question was, what's the difference between, right, working in Canada and working in Australia? Australians are far less polite than Canadians. They tell it like it is. When you're working on an Australian set and the director doesn't like it, he's going to tell you in no uncertain terms, with words not suitable for children, how your performance was. If you're really the same performance and they would like to say that in Canada, they will apologize for your performance. I'm sorry. Can we go again?
That's a good point. It's kind of like yesterday, it was a good example that a guy came up to me, and someone was attending the convention, and he came up to me and he said, it was at the end of the day. End of the day, it was a long day. Pretty jet lagged, sleep deprived. I'm very happy. I'm sitting there waiting, final call, any more autographs. And he comes up and says, "Claudia, while you're here, I just wanted to ask you." I said, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." He said, "You know that episode of Dresden Files that you did?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Your American accent on that was really pretty bad."
Except he didn't use really bad, he used, you know.
Yeah, he did actually, yeah. Rhymes with it. And then he wanted me to...
Really fit.
Yeah, could you extemporize on that for me? I mean, basically, could you just... I mean, why was it so bad? I mean, I don't mean to be insulting or anything.
You know, I came out and sat on the edge of the stage before, and I was just having a chat,
Yes.
you know, because I didn't want people to run away. Some of them did. And I'm sitting quite calmly and, you know, quite out of the blue. You know, I really prefer O'Neill. Yes, I can see you do. You see, if you go somewhere else in the world, like Canada, they'll say, "So, how do you feel about replacing Richard Dean Anderson?" But here it's like, "I really liked O'Neill. Really sorry you were on the show." I like it. I prefer it. I'm comfortable with it.
That's why he likes me. There's no sugarcoating with this one.
But that's okay, because, you know, sometimes I lose my politeness. Quit prompting me, woman.
I think it's more disrespectful. I mean, sure, if someone says, "Do I look fat in this dress?" It's a loaded
No,
question.
baby, you don't. You look fantastic.
I think with those sort of questions, you get what you pay for. It's loaded. But I think if someone's saying to you, honestly, it's all about collaboration for me, and I don't like people lying to me, and I think it's more respectful to be honest and find a way that isn't entirely offensive to convey that honesty. So I appreciate it. I mean, I would do that with Michael too. We'd be standing on set and I'd say, "What's funnier? Which was better?" And I wouldn't take offense at all. He'd say, "No, that one was funnier because," and there was a technical reason for it. And I'm sure that's what the guy was looking for yesterday, was a technical reason as to why my accent was so bad on the Dresden Files. And I had an answer for him, but it felt like an excuse. So you know, he was right. It was terrible. I mean, what can I say? That's why I wasn't that offended. But it was just so odd. He said, "I'm sorry, I'm just nervous and it's my first convention and I didn't mean to be insulting." I said, "Well, it's an insulting thing to say to someone, I would say, but I'm not insulted. I get it, because you're right. But I'm glad you cut your teeth on me, because if you did this at another convention somewhere else around the world, you might not get such a, you know, a good reception." With that, you know, how to win friends and influence people.
Next question.
Up the back here. Michael here, how you going?
Hello.
Mike.
How we doing? This is a question for Ben. Pretty early on when you came into SG1, you had a lot of fighting scenes. You got, you know, pretty action orientated. Just want to ask what your, I guess your favourite moves or your favourite fighting scene was from the series.
My favorite fighting scene
Yep.
without question, is the fight with the Knight at the end of season 9. The Black Knight fight sequence where I ended up in the mud, which was really fortuitous because it does rain a lot in Vancouver, even during the Olympics. If you happen to watch the Winter Olympics, where was the snow? But yeah, we had a huge downpour, and we were working in this village scene from another show, and it was basically where they used to move all the horses in and out. And it's covered in mud, and the mud is this deep. And the director comes and looks at me and goes, well, what are we going to do about the fight? Because the mud is mud and rocks, and this is where the horses have been. It's this deep. That's not a problem. We'll solve that right now. I'll just roll around first. Because we're shooting out of sequence. And he goes, really? I go, here we go. Boom. If I'm dirty and I'm bloody, I look better. I think. So, and the opportunity to do that kind of scene with that kind of physicality, because as you get older, it's going to be harder and harder to do. And, that 9-year-old boy inside of me dies to be that guy with the sword in the mud and the blood. Next question.
Hi, down here.
Hello.
How's it going? I tend to like sci-fi shows.
Talk right into the microphone.
Okay.
See, now you can be a voice actor.
Very good. Bad one. I like sci-fi shows where the actual spaceship is a character, where there's a strong relationship between the character and the ships. What did Moya mean to your characters, and what was that relationship like? Because the human one's very, you can see that. But what did Moya mean to you in Alaska?
To Moya.
Yeah. What was that relationship?
Wow.
It was the most. I was looking for originality because I was a fan of sort of action films and science fiction, and more movies than TV for me with sci-fi. And at that stage, I thought the details about the Leviathan itself and the fact that Moya was a living ship was one of the most original elements of the pilot for me. And I too thought that was incredibly interesting to make the ship a character. And I mean, Aaron had such a beautiful bond with Pilot.
And Talon.
Yes. My
Moya's
dad is so
Stargate
daggy.
person's going, Moya, Talon, what's the...
Yeah.
Okay, Moya is a ship. It's a living ship.
I got sucked.
I'm on a ship, a living ship. I've been sucked through a wormhole.
Sucked.
Help me. There you go. That's all you need to know. But that was so basically... So for those of you who haven't seen the show, sometimes the ship decided what it wanted to do, not what you wanted it to do. In fact, quite often. It had a baby. Our ship had a baby, which was a bad baby. An illegitimate bad baby ship. I don't understand why Stargate fans don't get this stuff.
And in the original...
There's this man back here shaking his head going, oh, no. There's no way I'm watching that.
The guys who were the production designers and the art directors on it, Ricky Ayres and Julian, wanted originally as part of their design to have the lights on the side, the bulkheads through the corridors of Moya, to be living sort of bugs that were like, kind of like glowworms, but there's another type of bug. Yeah, just some combination of all those things that actually sort of glow in the dark, and living creatures, and that they would move as people moved. As we came down the corridor, and I mean, that's just too expensive with CGI and stuff to make that happen, or to have something mechanical, it was just too difficult. But the amount of creativity that Farscape invited every department to have and bring, it's, on Stargate they would say to me, we love what you're doing with all the comedy, just go for it and we can cut it out if it's too much or if we don't like it. So you give them 100% and you end up with 20 of it in it if you're lucky. And that was the same with Farscape. The things that you guys will not see that didn't make the cut in Farscape. I mean, it was just an incredible, environment of creativity. But yeah.
Yeah, and look, what something like the ship does. If Moya was in a bad mood, the lighting would change. You could have a whole episode where she's just not in a good mood for the episode. And so, you know, the episode is infused with a different kind of lighting and a different kind of feel. And that's something that you hand to a lighting crew. Almost every aspect of that show gave something to the crew to do, to the cast to do, and it changed. To the degree that the show was that variable, it would, some audiences do not like that. But, you know, from a standpoint of the actual making of the show, on the creative end, it's a tremendous gift to the cast and the crew.
And, I mean,
Now, but the question was character, right? How did your characters relate to Moya? I think my personal thing was, I think that Crichton had this great affection of Moya, but I think he was slightly afraid of her. Because he didn't know what she was going to do. And he didn't have the relationship with Pilot, you know, that Aaron did. You know, and even Pilot was only like trying to convince Moya to do certain things.
and Moya was kind of passive aggressive because she didn't communicate directly. She would have Pilot communicate for her. So Pilot said, "Oh, I don't think Moya's very happy about that, guys. I don't think you should know. I don't think you should do that." But you would get the sense of her as, you know, as an actor and a character. You would always be able to tell, as Ben said, by the lighting or whatever, there would be reactions from Moya. But it was also interesting for storytelling for each episode because it wasn't like, oh, the flux capacitor is sort of busted. Can someone go down to maintenance and have a look at it? As a living organism, she had moods and she went through cycles, and so that could affect us and the storytelling in really interesting ways. We didn't have to have combat with another ship or with, you know, didn't have to be enemy fire, but it raised the stakes, and they were always talking about how can we make this really epic. How can we raise the stakes? And if you're being fired upon and the ship that you're in is living, then there's empathy. You feel a lot more for everybody concerned because the ship itself getting damaged can feel that fire. So it made it so much more dramatic and visceral and interesting.
Yes, next person. Hey.
When you were... for both of you, how did filming Stargate Continuum feel as a continuous of Baal's saga? The killing and the grandfather paradox and yada yada.
How did it feel continuing Baal's
saga in Continuum?
I loved the role that I was given because I thought, well, you're asking how did it feel to continue the Baal story. So yeah, I loved it. I loved the fact that I got to play Katesh. I mean, I'd impersonated her. You know, Vala had been impersonating Katesh, and then Brad actually had me play her and Vala. And so I liked what he did with the story, and I liked seeing Katesh and Baal interacting, and it was an interesting, you know, it was a cool way to, you know, device that he used to be able to go back in time and see, you know, how the two of them interacted. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have much to do in Continuum, so, but I really enjoyed reading it, and Brad said, you know, said to me, would you be willing to do this movie? And I read it, and I said, I think it's really well written, it's a great ride, and you know, it's a fun story, but I particularly liked doing that stuff with Cliff and getting to be quintessentially evil. But when I see it, I mean, whenever I see that scene, that moment where I go, someone's running out the door, I just think, oh, what a great moment in sci-fi and what a highlight of my acting career. It's just so, you just have to hope that they're going to put in an appropriate effect afterwards, otherwise you just look really dumb. Come back or I'm gonna do this at you. Again. Watch out, because I've got this in my arsenal. And then I waddled after him, very heavily pregnant in heels. That showed him.
I had a great time on Continuum. I mean, you know, look, we got to go to the Arctic. It was ridiculous. It's an experience that you can't pay for. There's not like, yeah, I'm booking a flight to the Arctic. You know, so it was a fantastic thing. The Arctic, all of the stuff that I was given to do, the incredible sets that they built. That ship, they built the ship. You walk into the soundstage, and they refrigerated the soundstage. It was 25 degrees Fahrenheit or -3 degrees Celsius, whatever that is. Like, I lived here for 4.5 years. I said Celsius, Fahrenheit, whatever. Now, if it's the water temperature, that I understand because I surf. Like 15, cold. 22, sweet.
It's funny though, because I was just telling someone a recipe for lamb, and I said, Ben will know the difference between Fahrenheit and centigrade. We'll ask him.
Only in surf temperature.
What is it, you minus 37
Or,
and then halve it?
when it gets to 40, I know it's a bad time to be in prosthetics.
Yeah.
But I had a great time, and I love the grandfather paradox in Continuum. I want to see what he did in those 10 years. Well, that's why, hey, forget that universe thing. Let's do Stargate 19. Serious Stargate pre-war, a period piece. I love period pieces as a matter of principle. I love them, but Stargate 1930s and 40s. I would love to see this. One of my favorite episodes of Stargate is when I think, which is it, Torment of Tantalus, where you see the early stuff. I like that stuff. I want to see that stuff, and I would love to see what Mitchell was getting up to right about the time of the stock market crash. Sell. I'm shorting the market. I want to, I don't know if any of you have seen this. There was an extra put out by MGM for the release of Continuum, where they asked me, I said, do something about Cameron Mitchell during the missing 10 years. And so I wrote a piece which had to do with Cameron Mitchell entering the world of aviation in the 1930s. And he had this sort of really weird relationship with Amelia Earhart, where he sort of felt Amelia Earhart was stalking him. That's why I don't write on Stargate, as a matter of principle. But it was a lot of fun to see, what would you do if you were in the 30s and you knew the history? So I had him visiting Gandhi and seeing the world and, surfing Hawaii in the 30s. It was great. And that, I would love to see that, Stargate the period piece. What? Vala could be there.
Yes.
Mitchell and Vala.
Women in those
In a
days.
speakeasy.
Yeah.
But I mean, come on. Didn't when you watch Star Trek the first time, and they went back to Earth, and they, the episode where they're dealing with the mob? Don't you remember those episodes and go, I love that episode? I mean, it's so much better than the salt monster sucking your salt out.
Or there's a room with a spinning fan. Yeah.
A piece of the action. Yeah.
Don't think they're with us.
No, somebody out there knows exactly what I mean. Show me the geek hands who knows what a piece of the action is. Yeah! See, I'm geekier than you guys by a long shot. Next question.
Hello.
I'm a big fan of Stargate and Farscape and all that, but have you ever considered doing another type of acting or another genre?
Or another what?
Have you ever had interest in doing another genre of acting or...
What other genre is there?
Oh, for a muse of fire. Would ascend the brightness, have it invention. We actually have done other things.
Yeah.
They're just not as memorable.
Speak for yourself. No. I'm kidding. What?
The answer is yes. I would love to do other stuff, but it isn't a question of do I love doing sci-fi any less than anything else. It just happens to be, can't speak for Claudia.
Oh, no, it's
Speaking for myself.
Yes.
It doesn't matter to me what the genre is. As a person, I happen to love science fiction. But I didn't go out and try to strike a career in science fiction. I don't know if that would be possible. I was auditioning for everything, but I'm not particularly good, I think, at soaps. I'm not. You know, stand there and look handsome, and I want to do. If I roll in the mud, I look better. Will that work?
Was it Hugh Jackman? So I think it was Hugh Jackman who was interviewed recently, and he'd done a stint on soap years back that no one really knew about. I think it was Hugh Jackman, and he said you had to have, as long as you had your 3 looks for the end of every scene, you were fine. And the 3 looks were: did I leave the stove on? I think I left the stove on. Oh no, it's okay. Oh, so good.
I've only got 1 look, so I can't do soap.
I grew up. I had a couple of seminal moments in my life, and they were, as far as science fiction goes, I saw Linda Hamilton doing Terminator and Terminator 2.
Yeah, so did I.
Oh. And I saw Sigourney Weaver doing Alien and Aliens and so forth. And then I saw Blade Runner, not necessarily in that order. And I saw these women, and I thought, God, I knew I wanted to be a performer, and I thought, that's the sort of roles that I identify with. They're the sort of roles I want to play. And I just think that when you identify with something, it's not necessarily on a conscious level. I didn't actively seek it out, but it found me, and I'm so lucky that it did, because I just think that I was right at that age, that was the sort of work I was probably, that was the sort of material, if I was lucky, I was going to try and get my hands on. And Farscape, episode 7, P.T. Tech Girl, that was sort of, I suddenly started to feel like I was kind of walking in their shoes. And I have to also add that Lucy Lawless playing Xena was the beginning really for women in television, playing these really empowered leading roles in genre work. And so these women that had come before me were really starting to sort of set the stage, and Lucy, especially in television, that was sort of a really important marking point. I like to do other stuff. I'm more of a fan of science fiction. Oddly enough, the more clinical stuff, the smarter stuff, than I am of the fantasy stuff as personal taste. I've just sort of come to realize this because I was talking, we were doing an improv show recently, and the teacher was sort of saying to me, who was a fan of Farscape, "It sounds to me, Claudia, like you're not really a big fan of science fiction." Because I said that I didn't like the first episode of Lost when they introduced that stupid mythological creature rustling in the bushes. Thank you. And he said, and I said, I like it when it makes sense, and I like it when, the beauty of science fiction is you get to establish your own rules. You can make it up. The sky's the limit, but just stick to your bloody rules. If you're going to establish them, then stick to them so that the audience stays with you and they can appreciate the logic. And sometimes you can't. There's going to be...
What if the rule is shoot once, you're stunned, shoot twice, you're dead, third time you disappear?
3 times you disappear. Yeah.
They stuck to the rule. Give them credit. They stuck to the rule. But I'm sure many of you heard the story about. Have you heard the story about how that came about? All right, we're in Australia. Everyone in Canada knows this story. Okay, so they're shooting a scene. This is for those of you who haven't seen Stargate. Zats. You shoot once they kill, once they stun, twice they kill, third time they disappear. Well, that wasn't written in the writer's office. What happened was they were shooting this huge scene, and they were shooting people with Zats. And then they ended up, so they had dead bodies all over the place, right? Or they shot them and they had stunned or dead bodies all over the place. And they realized they were losing the bodies because they didn't have enough people, and guys had to go up on their contract. So instead of there's 50 dead bodies, they only had 2 or 3 left. And they said, well, how do we explain away the fact that all these bodies are gone? And the on-set producer said, it's simple. You shoot once they're dead, twice they're stunned, once stunned, twice dead, third time they disintegrate. And the writers, Brad Wright, gets it back, they look at the dailies, they go, what? That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. But they couldn't cut it out. So they still have it. It's logical. It makes sense. It has rules, like big monsters in the woods.
Yes. But it wasn't decided from the officers upstairs. It was.
I just think it's a good story.
It is. But yes, so I mean, I have done other stuff. I mean, Ben and I both come from a theatre background, and I mean, I sort of attempt to do mainstream stuff, and then, you know, life occurs. So I was cast on something for a big network show, and when they called to pick up my option, I was quite heavily pregnant, and they said, okay, bye-bye. So, I mean, I just, the thing that really I dig about science fiction in particular is that what used to be a genre where women were objectified is now this incredible playground for women to be flawed but empowered. And if you come from a theatre background, done Shakespeare as Ben and I have, I mean, the greater the range for the character, the greater the potential, the more fun we're going to have as players with those characters. So science fiction has proved to be, for me personally, an incredible platform for discovery of character and female empowerment.
But is it okay if I still objectify you? Just a little bit.
I don't know, why don't you drop something and see if I bend over and pick it up. We used to do that to Ben on set because he looked so good in his leathers.
So you come around and just, oh, I've dropped that.
Would you mind picking that up for me, Ben? Hey, girls!
I feel so cheap. Next question.
Last question.
Last.
I know.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Up here in the sky again. This is a question for both of you. You've both had the opportunity to work with now more than one ensemble cast, you know, long-term show, and we see, and when we all get the box sets and the final episode, the bond that the family has formed over the years of working together, and it's so sad when it's the final shoot and everything. Would you seriously be tempted, to, you know, if they rang you up and said, we're going to do Farscape again, would you just drop everything and say yes, if you could?
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah. The answer is yes, but I mean, what am I dropping?
Yeah, I'm thinking about my baby in my arms.
Yeah,
oh, sorry, babe, I'm going to do Farscape again.
Not literally dropping the baby, no.
The first, I guess the part of that question is, would you like to go do more Farscape? Hell yeah.
Right, yes.
Absolutely. Would I work with those folks again? Absolutely. Hell yeah. Would I work with Claudia again anytime, anywhere? Hell yeah.
Right.
Okay. But, you know, then there's like caveats like, well, what if you got a baby at home and you've got to be away for 9 months and the family can't move? There might be those questions, but the simple answer is hell yeah. And Stargate, yes, hell yeah, I'll go back. I love working with those guys. I think Mike is amazing. He's the hardest working actor, one of the hardest working actors I know, and he's so diligent, and you know, I have great respect for his craft and what he does. Even if Daniel Jackson doesn't have the common sense to say yes. I'm sorry, it bothers me. Come on, I've read the internet. The other team is calling. Don't go, Daniel, don't go. You know? But Mike's amazing, and Chris is a wonderful presence, and you know, you'll see Rick later today. He's just an entertaining guy to be around.
So smart and funny.
Yeah, and Amanda, you know, I know Amanda's busy doing Sanctuary, but she is, you know, I adore them and the people of the bridge. Do I, you know, so my simple answer is, and I'll let Claude handle this, so she can wrap it up eloquently. The simple answer is I love both shows.
Well,
and both of those casts are amazing casts. But you're right when you say family, that like every family, what you really want to know is, you want some dirt? No. You're never going to get it from me because it is a family, you know, and you work incredibly long hours. And you have these tremendous intellects and egos involved, my own included.
I thought you were saying not yours, not mine.
No. No, you know, you sort of have to come to, you know, grips with the fact that, oh man, did I say that? Oh dear. You know, but it's a tremendous family. And I think what most people recognize on the screen with both of these shows is they sense that. They sense the relationships.
Definitely.
I mean, look, the Stargate is a tremendous prop, one of the greatest props ever. It's a great story device.
That's what I said.
Claudia said this yesterday.
And then Rick said it after me.
But where I would part ways is that I think no matter how wonderful the prop is, if you don't care about the people, you're not going to watch. My opinion. I think it's the writing and the cast and the crew and how the audience engages that story and those people. So what a wonderful, wonderful gift to have been on 2 shows that have tremendous cast chemistry, that have a tremendous synergy with their audiences. So I would go back to either one of them today.
Great.
No questions.
We would definitely love to see you back in any of them. Yeah.
Thank you. But now Claude has to answer that question.
Oh.
You'll just have to wait. Go on. Go on. Back. People.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Browder and Claudia Black.
This is something I've never gotten to say. Thank you, Australia!
I was about to say the same, except this is what I've always wanted to say, which is, good night, Australia! Thank you for everything. Keep Australia warm for me, I want to come back.
Let you have them go by.